Hey everybody, welcome to day 2 of the Magic Core Set 2020 set reviews on the Mana Leek. I'm John as always. We're going to be taking a look at all of the blue cards today from a limited perspective, talking about draft, to a lesser extent sealed, talking about best of 3 draft. Remember, of course, these are my opinions on the cards. They may differ from yours, and the intention of this is to create discussion. So use that comments down below to chat with me, chat with each other about what you agree with, disagree with, etc. And keep in mind the grades are not super scientific. The difference between a C+ or a B- isn't terribly relevant. The point of the grades is to just kind of end the discussion on that card, but the discussion is what actually matters. So without further ado, we're going to get on into the first card. The first card is Ether Gust. Ether Gust is 1 and a blue for an instant at uncommon. Choose target spell or permanent that's red or green. Its owner puts it on the top or bottom of their library. They are the ones who get to choose where it goes, meaning that they will choose the top. Always. So unlike the white color hoser, and to an equal extent the black and the red one we'll see in the next couple of days, this one's not really that great. It's unsummoned, which, spoiler, is in the set, but only for red and green. It's for permanents, not creatures. It's also for spells, which means that it is remand, except it doesn't draw you a card, which is a huge aspect of remand being a decent card. So all in all, this is a great big gigantic meh. I'll probably still side it in if my opponent is red-green. I don't know if I'll side it in if they're just red or just green, but this is much more like a D-. It's not like the D+++ of some of the other color hosers here. So a D- for Ether Gust. Up next is Agent of Treachery. Agent of Treachery is 5 blue for a creature human rogue at rare. He's a 2/3. When Agent of Treachery enters the battlefield, gain control of target permanent. At the beginning of your end step, if you control 3 or more permanents you don't own, draw 3 cards. So it's a 7 mana mind control, but you also get a 2/3 out of it. It's probably still really solid. Mind control effects are very, very, very powerful. They used to be 2 blue, but that was too cheap. So now they've come on up. As long as this format isn't super massive aggro, you know, like M19, then this card's probably still just going to be pretty darn good. You do have to have a controlling late game plan. You need to know that you're going to get to 7 mana. If you're in blue-white flyers, for example, I have a feeling you might not have a spot for a 7-drop. Maybe you do, but if you're in something more controlling like blue-black, for example, then you can actually play this and it's going to be very powerful, stealing one of their late game threats permanently. Now, you're never, ever going to actually get to draw 3 cards off of this, so that doesn't matter, but I think this is a B, assuming you can cast it. As with a number of cards in this set, it's powerful. You have to know when you actually should not or cannot play it. B for Agent of Treachery. Air Elemental is back. Air Elemental is 3 blue for a creature elemental at uncommon. It's a 4/4 flyer. It's great. It's 5 mana for a 4/4 flyer. You can't ask for much more, perhaps Vigilance, but then it's a Sarah Angel. It's very efficient and a very real threat, and in some packs, it can be first pickable. With explicit support for flying in this set, this gets even better. I think this is just a solid B. It might look vanilla, but it is just pretty great. Anticipate is back as well. Anticipate is 1 and a blue for an instant at common. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, put 1 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. I never hate Anticipate. Having something to do while you're holding up your bounce or your removal and then you don't need it, and then you just cast this instead, is great. It's a nice bit of card selection. It does make some opening hands better. It's just all around solid, and a huge part of that is because it's instant speed. I typically am not a huge fan of these cards when they're in green because they're always sorcery speed, but in blue at instant speed, this card actually goes up a decent bit. It's a solid C. It's not a high pick, but I'll certainly play it. So a C for Anticipate. Attempsis All-Seeing is up next. Attempsis All-Seeing is 3 blue for a legendary creature Sphinx at rare. It's a 4/5 flyer. You can pay 2 and a blue and tap it to draw 2 cards, then discard a card. Whenever Attempsis All-Seeing deals damage to an opponent, you may reveal your hand. If cards with at least 6 different converted mana costs are revealed this way, that player loses the game. It's an alternate win condition. It's never going to happen in Limited, though, unfortunately. It's a rough casting cost, as we've seen with the Cavalier cycle and with Safara, and we'll see this a fair bit more throughout the week. But this is a bomb if you can cast it. A 4/5 flyer and looting plus getting an extra card off that loot is really awesome. The surprise you lose thing, as I said, is just not going to happen. You're not going to have 6 different CMCs, which is not different casting costs. That's a different phrase that we'll see tomorrow. This is different converted mana costs. But still, ignoring that clause, this is just a fine card, assuming you can cast it. You gotta make sure that you are playing blue. Like, I'd prefer to be a 10-7 split on my lands with 10 islands to really play this, but I think you'll play this even as like a 7-drop or something. Just a solid all-around card. It's a B. It's not a slam dunk instant amazing card, just because that casting cost is a little bit rough. We'll say that over and over and over again in this format. And we can touch on it a little bit now, but we will when we get to the lands. There are the 10 Khans of Tarkir lands, and they're going to appear just like in M19 sometimes in the basic land slot. Not every pack has one, but some packs will have them in the basic land slot, and that will help the fixing a little bit like it did with M19, but that fixes your mana so that you can splash a card. It doesn't fix your mana so that you can definitely, totally, always consistently cast a blue spell on curve. So keep that in mind. Befuddle is up next from Dominaria. Befuddle is 2 and a blue for an instant at common. Target creature gets -4/-0 until end of turn. Draw a card. Befuddle's totally fine. It'll save you when you need it. It draws a card when you do so. If you're really desperate, you can draw a card just whenever you want. This was fine in Dominaria, and I'm pretty sure it'll be fine here. It's not a high pick. It's very late middle pack pick, and you probably only play 1-ish. So it's just a C, but a decent C for Befuddle. Up next is Bone to Ash. Bone to Ash is 2 blue for an instant at, I don't know, this time common, I guess. It was common originally in Dark Ascension and Magic Origins. It became uncommon last year in M19, and now it's back to common. Real roller coaster of rarities here. It counters target creature spell, and it draws a card. It's fine. If you are a very controlling deck, this is an okay card. Creatures are typically what you're going to be countering the vast majority of time in Limited. Limited is a creature environment. It just is. That's the way it works. And drawing a card to replace this makes it somewhat worth 4 mana, but you don't really play this outside of the super duper controlling decks. So Bone to Ash is like a D+. You play it in some decks, but in a lot of decks you probably just shouldn't. D+ for Bone to Ash. Boreal Elemental is up next. Boreal Elemental is 4 and a blue for a creature elemental at common. It's a 3/4 flyer. Spells your opponents cast that target Boreal Elemental cost 2 more to cast. This seems suspiciously good, I think. It's 5 mana for a 3/4 flyer. It's no air elemental, but it costs a good bit more to kill it. Now, as we'll talk about over and over and over in this set review, the removal's really good in this set. So your pacifism is going to hit this for 4 mana. That's not a big deal. Your murder, it's going to cost 5. We've been casting 5 mana kill spells already. So this is probably why this is common and not uncommon, why it costs 4 and a blue as opposed to like 4 blue or something. But I still think it's probably pretty good. It's going to be a little bit more of a headache for your opponent. It's a well properly costed flyer, and of course you might have flying synergies in your deck. So I think this is totally fine. I think it actually jumps up to the B- range. I'm very happy to play the first one of these. Since it is a 5-drop, I don't know if I'm going to be playing too many more past the first one or maybe the second one, but I'm going to start very optimistic on this at a B- for Boreal Elemental. Up next is Brineborn Cutthroat. Brineborn Cutthroat is 1 and a blue for a creature merfolk pirate at uncommon. It's a 2/1. It's got flash. Whenever you cast a spell during an opponent's turn, put a +1/+1 counter on Brineborn Cutthroat. It's an ambush viper without death touch, which means it's not an ambush viper. Still, it'll eat some creatures here or there, some X2s. The ability is cute, but I feel like you need a number of counters on this until it gets relevant. Getting 1 counter on this, making it a 3/2, doesn't really make it that relevant. Making it a 4/3, it's a little bit more relevant, but I still feel like it dies. You want to get this to 4 toughness, which means 3 spells cast on your opponent's turn. It's doable. It's doable, but I don't know how often it's going to happen. So I have this at like a C+. I think it is still a 2/1 flash, which will eat some creatures. You can kind of think of this as almost like a Vanquish the Weak or something. It's going to kill a smallish creature, but not quite as consistently as something like a Vanquish the Weak. So C+ on this. I wouldn't get too Christmas landy about how many counters you're going to be getting onto this thing. C+ for Brineborn Cutthroat. Up next is Captivating Gyre. Captivating Gyre is 4 blue for a sorcery at uncommon. Return up to 3 target creatures to their owner's hand. This is basically Sea God's Revenge from Theros, except there's no scry, which is a bit of a downgrade, and it's 4 blue instead of 5 blue. This can end games though, as it may bounce your opponent's entire board, or at least a large relevant portion of it. Rebuilding it will take some time. This card is good, despite the cost. You need to make sure that you can have 6-drops in your deck though, but if you can, this card's great. I'm at like a B- on this. I doubt I'm first picking it, but I'm going to play this more often than you would think for a 6-drop. Flying decks will actually love this, because even if they don't have anything that they have to bounce, there's no flyers blocking them, you can just bounce their team that's threatening to race you, and suddenly that race changes a lot. So I'm actually pretty high on Captivating Gyre. I've got it at a B- for right now, and I hope it stays there. The blue Cavalier is next. Cavalier of Gales. Cavalier of Gales is 2 blue for a creature elemental knight at Mythic. It's a 5/5 flyer. When Cavalier of Gales enters the battlefield, draw 3 cards, then put 2 cards from your hand on top of your library in any order. Brainstorm. When Cavalier of Gales dies, shuffle it into its owner's library, then scry 2. This Cavalier is fantastic. Stats-wise, this just makes every other Cavalier look like an idiot. A 5/5 flyer for 5 is nuts. It does have a restrictive casting cost, absolutely. So at least these aren't being splashed in off-color decks, I suppose. Brainstorm on cast is fine, but Brainstorm is less good of a card when it's not paired with ample shuffle effects. That's why Brainstorm is really good in things like Vintage and Legacy. Still, it's gravy on an already very good creature. On death, disappearing off into your library, boy, it's good that it shuffles and isn't a god and just gets placed a couple of cards below. And then you get to scry 2, which means that you can set up your next couple of turns, or just, I don't know, throw them on the bottom and get deeper to Cavalier again. Is pretty decent. All in all, I think this is easily, like by a mile, the best Cavalier, and I'm very happy first picking it and immediately deciding that I am in blue. Easy A for Cavalier of Gales. Cerulean Drake is up next. Cerulean Drake is 1 and a blue for a creature Drake at uncommon. It's a 1/1 flyer with protection from red. Sacrifice Cerulean Drake. Counter target spell that targets you. Not that many spells target you in limited. Sure, a shock will here or there, and maybe a hand discard spell, but not a lot. And this is not a counter spell. This is an unboard counter spell, which means your opponent knows it's coming. So it's not like they're gonna deal you lethal and hope you forget about this. But this is really just a 1/1 flyer for 2, which I'm not in any way excited about. In the main board, I don't really want to play this. Out of the sideboard, it's okay if your opponent's playing red, because this can be just kind of like an infinite chump blocker, because it won't die to a red creature. But then, of course, they're going to have trample maybe, and then it just becomes scary. I don't know. I think this is not that great as a sideboard option. I have it at like a D-. I'm not going to main deck this, and I don't know if I'm actually going to be siding this in at all. D- for Cerulean Drake. Maybe it's actually amazing. Maybe there are just a lot of things that target you that you're going to want to stop, but I don't see them. So D- for Cerulean Drake. Cloudkin Seer is up next. Cloudkin Seer is 2 and a blue for a creature elemental wizard at common. It's a 2/1 flyer. When Cloudkin Seer enters the battlefield, draw a card. It's super good for a common. It's a 2/1 flyer for 3, which is okay. It's pretty fairly costed, though we have had 2/1 flyers for 2 in the past. They usually had a downside, typically not being able to block non-flyers. The card draw is great. This just seems like a card that you want multiples of in most decks, especially blue-white flyers. As far as many games go, this is going to be the same as a Windrake. The fact that it's going to be an X1 isn't going to be a huge deal. So I've got this at a strong C+ for Cloudkin Seer. Convolute is up next. Convolute is 2 and a blue for an instant at common. Counter target spell unless its controller pays 4. This looks like a bad counter spell. It looks like Crush Descent or things that we've seen recently that I've given bad grades to and that I say are bad cards. But I actually play this one more than I expect. We saw this in Eldritch Moon, I believe. There was Spell Shrivel in Battle for Zendikar that I played a lot of. Having to pay 4 is actually a ton. This keeps this card relevant way late in the game. On turn 6, if they have 6 lands, the only thing they can safely cast is a 2-drop. You're still going to be able to get to counter basically anything they want. So the fact that this stays alive much later in the game than a Crush Descent or a Force Spike or even a Mana Leak is making this a decent card. It's still a very medium card, but a medium decent card. So I've got Convoluted as C. I'm actually going to play this way more than you might expect me to. C for Convolute. Drawn from Dreams is up next. Drawn from Dreams is 2 blue for a sorcery at rare. Look at the top 7 cards of your library. Put 2 of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. This seems solid. Draw 2 for 4 mana, but you get your choice of what 2 from the top probably quarter of your deck. That's a really solid draw spell. I'm not super happy first picking this, but past bombs and removal and like super efficient creatures, I then could see maybe first picking this, but realistically I want to be taking this second or third or fourth pick. But I've got a B- for Drawn from Dreams. Dungeon Geist is up next. Dungeon Geist is 2 blue for a creature spirit at rare. It's a 3/3 flyer. When Dungeon Geist enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls. That creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step for as long as you control Dungeon Geists. Out of nowhere, a bomb from Dark Ascension. This card's great. It's a 3/3 flyer for 4 and getting to keep a creature down as long as it's alive. This is an easy first pick. It's not an instantly game-ending bomb or anything, so I'm going to keep this at like the A- range, but it is a great card. A relevant flying body on basically removal is a really good card. A- for Dungeon Geists. Fairy Miscreant is up next. Fairy Miscreant is a single blue mana for a creature Fairy Rogue. It's a common 1/1. It's a flyer. When Fairy Miscreant enters the battlefield, if you control another creature named Fairy Miscreant, draw a card. This is the blue collect 'em all card, and it wasn't good in Origins, and I doubt it'll be any good here. Playing a bunch of 1/1 flyers for 1 is not where I want to be, especially when the payoff is that I might maybe get to draw a card when I play one. That's not worth a card slot. I'm not going to play these. You can do better than this. There's much better cards than this. I have Fairy Miscreant as an F. I really don't like this card. Didn't like it the first time around, not going to like it the second time around. Flood of Tears is next. Flood of Tears is 4 blue for a sorcery at rare. Return all non-land permanents to their owner's hands. If you return 4 or more non-token permanents you control this way, you may put a permanent card from your hand onto the battlefield. This is rougher than it looks. This is rougher than it looks. In order for you to get the bonus, you need to bounce a bunch of your own things, which means you need to have been playing creatures into a board bounce willingly. And the bonus that you get is that you're the first one to rebuild, which is a bonus. That's an absolute big bonus. Single combat in war was horrible because your opponent was the first one to rebuild. Now, I'm sure people will immediately jump to the fact that you don't have to put a permanent that you bounced back. You can put any permanent, but you just cast a 6-drop spell. There's probably no permanents in your hand that you couldn't have put on the battlefield anyways. So I'm not actually excited by this. I have it as like a D. I just don't think... I don't think it's good. I don't think it's good. It doesn't do anything. It just fogs your opponent for a turn, basically. It delays the game a little bit. So I'm super not sold on Flood of Tears. I've got it as a D. I don't think it's very good. I think it reads way better than it looks. And sure, in some commander game or something, somebody's going to cast this and throw down an Emrakul, and it's going to be, you know, game over. But that's not happening in Core Set 2020 draft. Fortress Crab is back. It's 3 and a blue for a creature crab at common. It's a 1/6 with some flavor text, and that's it. If you need to block really well, this is your thing to block really, really well with, except it's a 4-drop, which means if you're trying to block a heavy aggro deck, you've already been heavily aggroed by that point, so it's not great there. Some decks, though, are going to be interested in this. Generally, though, you shouldn't play it. I've got it as a D. You're going to know when you might want one of these, and it's not going to be terribly often. So a D for Fortress Crab. Up next is Frilled Sea Serpent. Frilled Sea Serpent is 4 blue for a creature serpent at common. It's a 4/6, and you can pay 5 blue, and Frilled Sea Serpent can't be blocked this turn. It's from M19. We've played with this. It's okay. It finishes the game sometimes if you have a lot of mana and nobody's doing much of anything, but it's a real mediocre way to do it. There's a lot better ways to finish the game than with this card. I tend to avoid playing this whenever I can, but it's a core set. Sometimes you just have to play it, and sometimes your deck is just designed to absolutely stonewall the game and then attack in with this 5 times unblockable for a total of 40 mana invested into it. Frilled Sea Serpent is like a C-, a weak C-. Not a weak C- is Frost Lynx. Frost Lynx is 2 and a blue for a creature elemental cat at common. It's a 2/2. When Frost Lynx enters the battlefield, tap target creature an opponent controls. That creature doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. Frost Lynx is great. This is known. This card is a reprint, and it was great the time that we saw it before. This card may as well read Bounce a Creature, though obviously it's not quite that big of a tempo hit because your opponent doesn't have to recast it, but this is going to buy you some time to do some more flying damage, to get through on the ground through a blocker. It's a 2/2 body in and of itself, which isn't awful. Frost Lynx can be a first pick in packs that are lacking real bombs and removal, and you'll play every copy of this that you can get. Frost Lynx is a great card. I've got it at a B-, nothing higher because it's not flying or anything. It's not a huge body, but it's a strong B-. You'll play every copy of this. Hardcover is up next with art from local London artist Pendersky. Hardcover is a single blue mana for enchantment aura at uncommon. Enchanted creature gets +0/+2 and has tap, draw a card, then discard a card. I don't know if I like this. I don't think I like this. You spend a card to turn a creature into a looter. That's not really my jam. Auras, despite what Arena would suggest, are just asking for you to get 2 for 1. Your opponent bounces this, kills it, and then you're down 2 cards. If you got to draw a card off of this, it hurts a little bit less, and if you can protect this long enough to be a looter turn after turn after turn, you'll get some value out of it. I'm going to start pessimistically on this card. There is the absolute chance that this card could be decent. I don't know how it works. You maybe just have to put it on the least threatening creature possible, but you're still putting a card into that to even start this to get going. So I don't know. I'm going to start at a D, and I'm going to very clearly identify that that's possibly pessimistic. I think it's going to stay there. This could actually jump up and be decent, but I'm going to start it at a D for hardcover. Up next is the blue Leyline of Anticipation. Leyline of Anticipation is 2 blue for an enchantment at rare. If Leyline of Anticipation is in your opening hand, you may begin the game with it on the battlefield. You may cast spells as though they had flash. So all of your creatures have flash, your artifacts have flash, your sorceries have flash, making them kind of instants. It doesn't actually make them instants, but they can be cast as though they were. One great big gigantic meh. I never want to cast this. It is not worth 4 mana and a card. If it's free at the start of the game, that's a nifty bonus. Getting to cast my sorcery spells for instant speed at instant speed is nice, I guess. I don't know. I'll keep an eye on this, but my assumption is that this is just not worth the cost if you don't always open this in your starting hand. So I'm going to put Leyline at a D. It probably is just an F. Maybe I'm really off here, but this doesn't seem like it's worth it as a bonus for me. So D for Leyline of Anticipation. Masterful Replication is up next. Masterful Replication is 5 and a blue for an instant at rare. Choose one. Create 2 3/3 colorless golem artifact creature tokens for your Master Splicer, I suppose. Or choose target artifact you control. Each other artifact you control becomes a copy of that artifact until end of turn. I'm not really sold on this. It's 6 mana for a pair of vanilla 3/3s. I know people love their creatures to be split up amongst multiples, but when we're talking 6 mana, I don't want 2 3/3s. I want a 6/6. Or I get to replicate all of my artifacts that probably aren't that relevant. This is a core set. There are a number of artifacts, and not many are very good. Super meh. I just don't think that I care about this card at all. Yeah, I don't care. I don't like my creatures being split up when we're talking about this much power and this much mana being put into it. I'm gonna put this at an F. I don't want 2 3/3s for 6 mana. I really, 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 really don't. I need something that's gonna do something for 6 mana, and 2 3/3s is not something. So I'm putting this at an F. F for Masterful Replication. Up next is Metropolis Sprite. Metropolis Sprite is 1 and a blue for a creature fairy rogue at common. It's a 1/2 flyer. Pay a blue, Metropolis Sprite gets +1/-1 until end of turn. Obviously, you can only really do that once, unless you just, want to kill the sprite. The sprite's okay, but not super exciting. It was from, I think, Return to Ravnica, maybe Gatecrash. It's very rarely relevant that it's a 1/2, so you basically always want this to be a 2/1, which means you're always paying a 1-mana tax every turn that you want to attack. You could just attack for 1, but that's half the damage. That's 50% of the damage. I'm not super looking to play this unless I have really good flying synergies. If I do, I think I can probably find better flyers. If I can't, then here you go. It's an option. So we'll go with a C- on Metropolis Sprite, but it's not a card you should really go out of your way to play. Up next is Moat Piranhas. Moat Piranhas is 1 and a blue for a creature fish. It's a common 3/3 defender. Not a huge fan. This reminds me of the Phalanx from Theros, Return Phalanx, I think. That was 1 and a black for a 3/3 defender, but you could pay 1 and a blue to attack with it. This can never attack. So it's just a 3/3 wall for 2, which is not good. It's going to hold off the 2/2s, it's going to hold off the 1/1s, the 2/3s, etc. But 3 toughness is not where I want to be on my walls, even if it's only 2 mana. So I think this is sideboard only, and I think it's a very weak sideboard card. I'm going to give this a D-. I don't think you ever play Moat Piranhas. The blue Planeswalker is up next, Mu Yanling from the Chinese Global Series. Mu Yanling Sky Dancer is 1 blue for a legendary Planeswalker Yanling. She's a mythic with 2 loyalty to start. Her +2 until your next turn, up to 1 target creature gets -2/-0 and loses flying. Her -3, create a 4/4 blue elemental bird creature token with flying. Her -8, you get an emblem with islands you control have, tap, draw a card. Like I said in the white set review, I'm really liking the power level of these walkers, especially after War of the Spark. Her +2 is solid. It'll do work keeping you alive for a little bit. It'll defend herself a bit, but it's not, stonewalling every opponent, especially if they've gone wide. It's a good effect. It's not insane. Her -3 is very nice. A 4/4 flyer for basically 3 mana is very, very, very good. But she's not making that until you've gone a full cycle with her, because she only starts at 2 loyalty. And then if you do make a 4/4 the first chance that you can, it's going to be another full 2 turns before you can make another one. So it's not like she's just barfing out 4/4 flyers. She's going to make 1, assuming she doesn't get hit. Then her -8, which is going to take forever to get to because you really want to be making at least one of those 4/4s, is really good. Making all of your lands or all of your islands anyways, just tap to draw a card is very solid. I think she is an A. I think A- would be doing her a bit of an injustice, but I think she's a far cry from an A+. I think she's good, just not insane. So a solid A for Mu Yanling Sky Dancer. Negate is back. It wouldn't be a core set if it didn't have Negate, and it has, of course, that amazing Magali Villeneuve art. Negate is 1 and a blue for an instant at common. Counter target non-creature spell. It's not great. Sealed, yes. Draft, no. Same as always. Limited is a creature format, and this just doesn't hit enough actual relevant things. In Sealed, your opponent plays a bit more non-creatures on average, just because they have less of a choice, and in Draft, if there's a scary Planeswalker or something, something you can't deal with, sure, side this in. But otherwise, don't pick this, don't main deck it, and only sometimes side it in. A D for negate. Up next is Octoprophet. Octoprophet, I guess, is an octopus prophet. It's 3 and a blue for a creature octopus. It's a common 3/3. When Octoprophet enters the battlefield, scry 2. Seems fine. It's a hill giant that scries 2. That's solid. It's not a super high pick. I'm not going to load up on these. I'll cut them if I have to, but I think this is just a solid C. In fact, I've talked myself up. A hill giant that scries 2 is solid. C+ for Octoprophet. Portal of Sanctuary is the blue artifact. 2 and a blue for an artifact at uncommon. Pay 1 generic mana, tap it. Return target creature you control and each aura attached to it to their owner's hands. Activate this ability only during your turn. Why? Why am I doing this? I obviously, if you have really good end of the battlefield effects, you get to recur them, but you have to recast the creature. This isn't Blink, which hurts this a ton. It doesn't get rid of pacifism, because the pacifism goes back to its owner's hand. I don't know what you're doing with this. I have this at an F. Sure, if you show me the absolute nuts recasting ETB effect cards deck, then this might fit in, but I don't build that jank usually, not when I want to win, and these set reviews are about winning. Sure, some night I've had a beer or two and I'm bored, maybe I'll try it out on Arena, but otherwise no. F for Portal of Sanctuary. Up next is Renowned Weaponsmith. Renowned Weaponsmith is 1 and a blue for a creature human artificer at uncommon. It's a 1/3. You can tap it to add colorless. Spend this mana only to cast artifact spells or activate abilities of artifacts. You can also pay blue, tap it to search your library for a card named Heart Piercer Bow or Vial of Dragonfire. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. And yes, both of those cards are in this set. There are artifacts in this set, there's a number of them, but like usual, they're typically not all that great. Getting a discount from the Weaponsmith probably just isn't going to be terribly relevant, but as I was reading this card out just now, I realized a horrifying nightmare hellscape scenario that will happen where people use multiples of these to equip the big hammer really fast. Oh boy, I hope that doesn't actually happen. Anyways, getting that bonus isn't really that great for the vast majority of the artifacts in this set. Getting to go and grab your bow is a pretty awful idea because it's a bad card. And the Vial of Dragonfire, while okay-ish, isn't really worth playing another kind of mediocre card just to be able to find it. I'm going to pass on Weaponsmith unless you're really deep on artifacts, or maybe, and I don't want to tell people to do this, but if you have multiples and you have the stupid hammer. D+ for Renowned Weaponsmith. Sage's Row Denizen is up next. Sage's Row Denizen is 2 and a blue for a creature Vidalcan Wizard at common. He's a 2/3. Whenever another blue creature enters the battlefield under your control, target player puts the top 2 cards of their library into their graveyard. A giant meh. It's a 2/3 for 3, which I'm not usually a fan of, and milling 2 cards at a variable, probably small number of times, that's not gonna do anything. You would need every creature in your deck to be blue and magically draw them all, and not just win the game by having drawn and played all of your creatures in order for this to do something. Sure, someone will stack multiples of these and suddenly they're milling 4 for every blue creature, or 6 or 8, and it's going to be kind of nutty, but that's a real out there scenario that I don't recommend you trying. Still, it's a 2/3 for 3, which means we're going to put a floor on this of a C-. If you need a creature, here you go, but try to play better stuff. C- for Sage's Row Denizen. Scholar of the Ages is up next. Scholar of the Ages is 5 blue for a creature human wizard at uncommon. She's a 3/3. When Scholar of the Ages enters the battlefield, return up to 2 target instant and or sorcery cards from your graveyard to your hand. I super don't like this. It's 7 mana for a 3/3. I absolutely have to be returning 2 really good instants and sorceries for me to be paying 7 mana for a 3/3. If I'm only returning 1, this card is awful. If I'm returning 0, this card is unplayable garbage. And if I'm returning 2, They have to be good. They have got to be really good. Because this is so variable, I'm just super off this card. 7 mana is an absolutely insane price for this, so I'm going to put this at an F. I don't think I'm ever playing Scholar of the Ages. Sleep Paralysis is up next, which is a terrifying real disorder that I hope I never actually experience. Sleep Paralysis is 3 and a blue for an enchantment aura at common. Enchant creature. When Sleep Paralysis enters the battlefield, tap enchanted creature. Enchanted creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. This card's great. This is blue's cheap-ish premium removal of the set at common. It's real good. It's not a 3-mana version like Claustrophobia, but it's still really, really, really good. It's first pickable in most packs. You'll play multiples of this. It's really, really solid. It doesn't kill the creature, which means your opponent can play enchantment hate, or they can still activate its ability if they have one. So it's going to be just a B+, but it's a good B+. Take Sleep Paralysis, play Sleep Paralysis. It's great. Spectral Sailor is up next. Spectral Sailor is a single blue mana for a creature Spirit Pirate at uncommon. It's a 1/1 with flash, flying, and you can pay 3 and a blue and draw a card. I like this a lot. It's a 1/1 flyer for 1, which I don't usually like, but it's got flash, because why not? I don't know why that's super relevant, but it's there. But the 4 mana draw a card is actually really, really, really good. This is just an absolutely lovely core set card. It teaches people the value of card draw, of engines, of mana sinks. This card actually looks really, really good to me. It's not a first pick if I can help it, but I'll easily play the first copy in every blue deck, I think. It doesn't do well in multiples because you get to a point where you can't just activate 3 of these every turn. Having multiples just means you draw it more likely. But yeah, I think this is actually a really good card. I think it reads a lot better than it does. And I think if you take some of my ratings, like 1/1s for 1 are always bad, too much to heart, you might miss out on a card like this. I've actually got this at a B-. I really, really, really like it. If it turns out the format is massively aggressive, you may not have time for it, but let's hope. Let's always hope. Tail's End is up next. Tail's End is 1 and a blue for an instant at rare. Counter target activated ability, triggered ability, or legendary spell. If you want a quick refresher or need a quick refresher, an activated ability is any ability like Spectral Sailors, which has a cost, a colon, and an ability. Even Planeswalkers, if you look, there's a little colon beside the +1 or the -1. Those are activated abilities. Triggered abilities are any abilities that use the words when, whenever, or if. And legendary spells are legendary spells. This card has obvious implications for standard and constructed in general, but not for limited. Countering an ability is super narrow. Legendary spells, which in this set would be creatures and planeswalkers, are rather rare, literally rare or mythic. There's just no reason to really include this card in your deck. Out of the sideboard, maybe like if your opponent does have a planeswalker, you can sideboard this in just like you could sideboard in a negate, but this probably is less useful than a negate. So I'm not really sold on this card. I have it as a D. You probably should just never, ever, ever main deck this. Countering an ability sounds great. It's actually not that great. What is great is Unsummon. Unsummon, the original bounce spell, I don't know if it's actually the original bounce spell, is a single blue mana for instant at common. Return target creature to its owner's hand. It's 1 mana. It can't possibly be any cheaper. It would be... I guess it could actually cost 0, but it would never be cheaper. It's great. It's fantastic. Yes, it doesn't hit non-creature permanents, but that's fine. It's instant speed. It's 1 mana. I will draft so many of these. I will always play the first and probably the second copies of it. I love Unsummon. A B- for me. Realistically, it's probably a C+, but for me, it's a B-. Warden of Evos Isle is up next. Warden of Evos Isle is 2 and a blue for a creature bird wizard. At uncommon, it's a 2/2 flyer. Creature spells with flying you cast cost 1 less to cast. This is pretty good. It's a Windrake. It's a 2/2 flyer for 3, so it's already playable. It's already totally fine. And making, hopefully, a large chunk of your other creatures 1 mana cheaper, if you're in blue-white flyers, is going to be fantastic. You want these, you want multiples if you can get them. Outside of that deck, if you're just a blue-red or a blue-black deck, it's still fine. It's still a Windrake, so it's still a floor of like a C with a ceiling of like a B- or a B. This is a good card. I think you should take this relatively highly. I don't think I'm ever happy first picking it, but pick 4, pick 5. around there, I think I'd be happy with this and start exploring the Flyers deck. Continuing on with flying, we have Winged Words. Winged Words is 2 and a blue for a sorcery at common. This spell costs 1 less to cast if you control a creature with flying. Draw 2 cards. Divination is just getting the absolute crap kicked out of it recently. Jace's Triumph and now this card. Just a strictly better Divination. If you don't have any flyers, it's Divination, which is basically always playable in core sets at a decently high rating. I would in fact give Divination C+, I think, in almost every core set that they've been in. And this sometimes being 2 mana for 2 cards is huge. This card is a strong C+. I don't know if it goes up to a B-. Maybe it is just a B- in the flying deck. But I think this is a strong C+. And rip Divination, I guess. Divination, not powerful enough these days. Our second last blue card is Yarok's Wavecrasher. Yarok's Wavecrasher is 3 and a blue for a creature elemental at uncommon. It's a 4/4. When Yarok's Wavecrasher enters the battlefield, return another creature you control to its owner's hand. I feel like we've gone back in time. This is a vanilla 4/4 with a downside. Sure, if you pack your deck full of juicy ETB effects, it's kind of an upside. You get to maybe pull something out from underneath a pacifism, perhaps. But this is frequently going to be a pain point for you to have to bounce something. And that's a very, very old design. We don't usually get this anymore, which unfortunately makes this card relatively weak, I think. At least in Ixalan, with Storm Sculptor, that card was unblockable. This card I'm super disinterested in unless I'm really abusing the ETB effects. I haven't super seen that as a thing that you can do. Yes, we saw the portal, but I don't think this works. So I've got this at a D. I'm going to just need to see it in action or see it actually doing something in order for me to consider this as an actual playable card. In fact, I just went up and did a quick check. There's only like 3 commons that I would want to bounce with this. Sure, there's some really fun rare or mythic stuff you could do. Bouncing the Cavalier and recasting it would get you a bit of value, but yeah, I think this is a card from a different era. So D for Yarok's Wavecrasher. Our final card for the day is Zephyr Charge. Zephyr Charge is 1 and a blue for an enchantment at common. Pay 1 and a blue, target creature gains flying until end of turn. No, absolutely not. Your blue-white Flyers deck wants flyers. It doesn't want a 2-mana do-nothing enchantment that you have to pay every turn to give something flying. This is a complete trap. Don't play it. Your blue-green Stompy deck might like the sounds of sending their 7/7 up into the sky for 2 mana, but you have a 7/7. You can probably already win the game instead of playing this card that does literally nothing until the scenario pops up where it might do something. Zephyr Charge is an awful card. It is a solid F. You should never be playing this card. F for Zephyr Charge. So that's going to wrap it up for the blue set review. Blue looks pretty good. Pretty good. I'm not giving out many A+ in this set review, it seems. I might not actually give out any. I don't know yet. Because it's a core set. It's designed to be less powerful, and thankfully, unlike the last core set, it does look less powerful. I'm not seeing any Banefires or Sleeps or anything like that. No Oops, I Win buttons, which is fantastic and makes me really look forward to this set. There's some powerful draw effects in here that I'm excited for. So let me know what cards you agree with, disagree with, what cards you're excited to play, what you're thinking of the set so far in the comments down below. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can find me over on Twitch, Twitter, and Facebook. On July 1st, I will be streaming all day Core Set 2020, Sealed and Draft on Arena. Thanks to Wizards for inviting me to the early access streamer event. You can always go over to inkedgaming.com and use the promo code MANALEAK10, all one word, 10 is your number, to get 10% off your order and help out the channel. And the biggest thing that you could do to help out the channel is click that thumbs up button, click subscribe if you haven't already, and share this around so that more people can see it. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, see y'all tomorrow for the black set review.